Hi, everybody. This is Maxine Taylor, and I thought I would show you a chart comparison between each of our presidential candidates and the United States. Using the U.S. chart and the charts of the candidates, I'm going to put the candidates' planets around the outermost wheel of the U.S. chart. Whatever house they fall in, whatever area of life they fall in the United States chart, that is what the candidate can help trigger for us. If a planet in their chart falls on a planet in the US chart, that's a double whammy. My mantra is conjunctions tell the tale. Okay, this does not say who's going to be president. It tells you what they bring to the table for us. Let's start with Donald Trump. Let's start with the first house. This is the house that determines the tone of the people, the political mood. We in the United States have Mars, action, energy, fighting, because we created this nation on a rebellion, of course. And so Donald Trump's sun, the giver of life, triggers our Mars, triggers action and energy. The North Node, a point of success, triggers Mars, and Uranus, the planet of the unexpected and explosion when combined with Mars, triggers that first house. And this really describes the reaction that he has created at his rallies, don't you think? Okay, second house is money. It's our banking system. It's our income. It's our debts. His Mercury is conscious mind. He brings ideas to the table. And our second house of money is beautiful. Venus and Jupiter, planets of abundance, benefic planets, and the sun, the giver of life. So we are a country that can create wealth. And Donald Trump brings ideas to that area. Third house of communication. It rules traffic. It rules transportation. It rules all sorts of schools and communication of all sorts. It's the way we express ourselves. His Saturn, which is serious, his Venus, which is love, sits on our Mercury, and so we take him seriously and we talk about him. I'm talking about him right now. His Pluto, either control or transformation, sits on our North Node, and so he can either transform or control our thinking. This is entirely up to him. In other words, we do have control over how we use our chart. The fourth house of real estate, land, domestic affairs, all domestic affairs, and senior citizens, among other things. I'm just giving you a thumbnail here. Trump's Mars, passion, and his ascendant, the most personal point in the chart, sit there triggering that. And so the home and family, real estate, very important to him naturally, and that's what he brings to the United States. The fifth house, fun and games, sports, theater, most importantly, children, gambling, all kind of fun. Each of the candidates triggers the fifth house, interestingly enough. Neptune, the planet of our dream, our hopes, and our wishes, falls in this house. Trump's Neptune falls in this house. And his Jupiter, optimism, abundance, sits on Saturn, which can be very serious. We take our responsibility very seriously toward children, toward fun, and he's opening it up. Seventh house, this is the house of our open enemies. It's the house of litigation. It deals with the lower courts. It deals with international affairs. Trump's moon, which is what the moon is what you're instinctively drawn to. Trump's moon sits there, and his south node, which is the area of loss, the area of difficulty. So he triggers these responses in our international relations. Ninth house deals with the higher mind, as we know, but in a mundane chart, it deals with the higher courts. It deals with our philosophy. It deals with religion, our belief system. Trump's vertex sits on our Pluto there, and Pluto, the planet of transformation or control, is triggered by a very karmic point. Once again, Trump has his free will as to how he uses this. And Trump's midheaven, this is the top of the chart in anyone's chart. This is our leadership potential. It sits in the 12th house of our hidden enemies. The 12th house deals with institutions like prisons, hospitals. It deals with the criminal element. It deals with all things that are hidden. And interestingly enough, every one of the candidates has something in the United States 12th house, which indicates that a great deal of progress can be made behind the scenes. We know that. And then when it is ready to be shared, it is shared. So that's Trump. Now, moving right along here, let's talk about Hillary. Hillary's Uranus, explosion, rebellion, doing your own thing, sits on our Mars. Again, this is can be incendiary at times. However, she has chosen not to use it that way. And so there is an inspiration and excitement that she brings to the table. Hillary also triggers, just as Trump does, our beautiful second house of money with her vertex. And this means that she can create more income for us, help us with our debts, just help our money in general. She has nothing in our third house, but look, she has Pluto and Mars right there at the IC, at the very bottom of the chart. And that's a very powerful placement in the fourth house. Any cusp is the strongest placement of the house. And Saturn is in that fourth house, Saturn, responsibility. The fourth house again rules domestic affairs. It deals with home and family and real estate. It deals with the weather, with our land, with our farmers, with our food. She too has Neptune, idealism, in the fifth house of children and fun and games. And remember, any type of rally, which is a fun thing, is a fifth house matter. And so this describes what each of the candidates are bringing to their rally. She brings hope to Saturn, which is very serious, takes their responsibility very seriously. It deals with the fifth house's children. It's all sort of social gatherings. Okay, Hillary's sixth house, not Hillary's sixth house, the United States sixth house is filled with Hillary's Sun, Venus, Mercury, Ascendant, South Node, and Jupiter. The sixth house deals with the health of the country. It deals with the military, with jobs, with our civil servants. It deals with animals. It deals with police and firemen. And so she brings an attitude of terrific service to the United States. There it is. You can count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4 planets. Her South Node, which means she's done this before, and her Ascendant. Very, very powerful. So indicating she is a servant of the people. She's going to help our jobs. Now, her moon is in the 11th house. The moon is what we're instinctively drawn to. The 11th house deals with Congress. It deals with groups. It deals with the humanitarian aspect of life. It deals with our friends. And her north node is in that infamous, if I may say, 12th house of behind-the-scenes activities, our hidden enemies, which means that she can get a lot done privately. The north node is an area of success. Now, let's take a look at Bernie's chart. Okay, Bernie also has Uranus, explosiveness, unpredictability, sitting right on our ascendant. And he has fired people up. In addition, his Jupiter, optimism, expansion, sits on our Mars. And his rallies and the response people have had to him represent this wonderful first house being triggered. His vertex triggers the second house. Once again, our money, our banks, our income, our debts. This is an area where the United States can excel in the right hands. His Pluto, transformation or control, sits on our north node, helping us think. He can transform our thinking with unique ideas. And I think he has done that in his campaign already. Look at this fifth house. Sun, North Node, Neptune, Mercury, all in his fifth house and triggering the United States, in the United States fifth house, triggering our Neptune, our dreams for our children. There they are. His Venus sits right behind the sixth cusp of service, and his ascendant is in the sixth house, so that he is truly going to help our civil servants, our military. He'll be helpful for our health situation, our jobs. In the 11th house of the humanitarian, Hillary also has the moon in the 11th, and they're very similar in that respect. They are both humanitarians, which I think they have illustrated in their campaign. His south node and moon are there, and so he triggers friendship, the United States friendship with other people. Now, his Mars sits right on our 12th cusp, and Saturn is in the 12th house. Saturn makes it real. Whatever it is, it makes it tangible. And so once again, as I said, all of the candidates have 12th house planets, meaning they will work behind the scenes with our hidden enemies, with those people who might want to harm us. They can work well with them and negotiate with them, and they will bring to the table more of that. This is very common, by the way, in political charts. I've done them for years. This is how the government operates. This is how it goes. Okay, Rubio. Now, I do not have a birth time for Marco Rubio nor for John Kasich. I've sent messages to their people, but I have yet to hear anything. So I don't have an ascendant or midheaven for either of them, but I do have some wonderful things to share with you. First of all, Marco's sun, the giver of life, sits on the United States ascendant and triggers Uranus in our first house. And so he triggers the unexpected. He brings out the unique individual in our populace. Very, very interesting. He's the only one whose sun is on the ascendant. So this is a very powerful placement for his sun. His moon, his emotions. He brings that to our ideas, to communication, to our thought processes. His south node, an area of weakness in everybody's chart if overused, is in our fourth house of domestic issues, of land issues, home and family, and senior issues. It's still a very karmic placement. Once again, the fifth house is triggered, fun and games, our Neptune and our Saturn, our dreams, our hopes and wishes, and our responsibility. Our dreams are transformed, can be transformed or controlled. And with Uranus sitting on our Saturn, Rubio's Uranus, he busts us loose from our fear. This relates to children, it relates to fun, it relates to speculation. I keep thinking of that song, Take a Chance on Me. That's what I think of the fifth house. And Rubio's Jupiter and Neptune. Jupiter is the great benefic. Neptune is a very spiritual planet. It's in the house of service. And so again, the military, our civil servants, our health, this is an area very important in the case of Rubio, because he brings that to our country. Mars, his Mars is up there very close to the midheaven, but it's in the ninth house of the upper courts, of our principles, of our beliefs, religion, and so he fires that up. And his north node, which is indicative of success wherever it falls in the chart, falls on the moon in our United States chart in the 10th house. This is the first candidate who has anything in our 10th house. The 10th house represents the president. The 10th house represents our public image in the world. And with his north node sitting on our moon, he enhances our public image in the world. Yes, he does have Venus, Mercury, and Saturn in the 12th house. Surprise, behind the scenes activities, dealing with our hidden enemies, negotiating with them perhaps, and making things very tangible for us in that area, creating results. Okay, John Kasich is another candidate. He does not trigger the first house. Interesting. Can you see a correlation right now? However, his Uranus, rebellion, the unexpected, the unique and different, sits on our sun in our second house of money. And based on his record, I think that what he's bringing here is a new approach to our finances. In the fourth house, his Pluto and South Node sit, and what this says is that he can bring about a change in our domestic issues, in senior issues, agrarian issues. It's either control or transformation that he brings to us. And the South Node says he'll work diligently simply because it's going to take a lot of his energy. South Node drains us of energy. Again, the fifth house is triggered. His Saturn is in the fifth house. Our Saturn is in the fifth house. And so we take our children, our fun very, very seriously, our sports. And Neptune, his Neptune sits on our Saturn so that he brings hope and idealism to what we may be fearful of when it comes to our children's lives and future. His Mars, action, energy, sits on our vertex in the sixth house of civil servants, health, and jobs. And so he triggers that as well. His Moon is in our eighth house of secrets, of debts, of the treasurer. This is all other people's money, and he awakens that. He has the North Node, a symbol of success, in the 10th house. The 10th house is our public image. It's our image in the world, and he enhances that. And once again, he has 4 planets in the 12th, the Sun, Venus, Jupiter, and Mercury. So he too has the ability to deal behind the scenes with those who might want to harm us in any way. And last but not least, Ted Cruz. Ted does not trigger anything in the first house, but his midheaven, his public image, which is a very powerful placement, triggers our money, and he will use his influence to create more money for us. His South Node is in the fourth house of real estate, land, domestic issues, senior issues, so that he may work hard but may not get what he wants out of it. Again, the fifth house triggered. His Pluto is on our Neptune, and so he's transforming our dream or controlling it. Depends on how he uses it. His ascendant is in that fifth house, and so he's about kids. He's about fun. And his Uranus and Moon sit on our Saturn, liberating it so that we can have fun. Look at the sixth house. His Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and Neptune are in the sixth house of civil servants and service, our health, our jobs, our pets, the police force, firemen. This is the area of service. His Sun is right behind the eighth house cusp of our debts, escrows, secrets, and his Mercury is in the eighth house, and so he's going to be a detective. He's going to get to the bottom of what's going on. His North Node is in our 10th house of public image, and so he enhances our public image. This is the leader, the president. This does not say he's going to be president. What it shows is that he enhances the president's role, and he enhances our public image all over the world. His vertex is in our 11th house, and so he triggers the humanitarian side. The 11th house is Congress and congressmen, so it's groups of all sorts. And his Saturn, reality, is in our 12th house of behind the scenes work and working with those hidden enemies to negotiate things. So I've got my final note is a tally of what each of the candidates trigger. Okay, the first house, which is the public tone, the mood of the people. The candidates who trigger that: Trump, Hillary, Bernie, and Rubio. Interesting. Second house, our money, our income, our debts. Trump, Hillary, Bernie, Kasich, Cruz. Our third house of transportation, our minds, our communication, um, the post office, Trump and Bernie. Our fourth house in the United States chart of real estate, land, weather, our senior citizens, Trump, Hillary, Rubio, Kasich, and Cruz. All of the candidates trigger our fifth house of children and sports and gambling and schools, the birth rate, public hearings, congressional hearings. Fifth house. Sixth house, the people who, the candidates who trigger our sixth house of the military, civil servants, our health, our jobs. Hillary, Bernie, Rubio, Kasich, and Cruz. Our seventh house of open enemies, of international affairs, of politics, of litigation, the lower courts, lawsuits, Trump. Eighth house of the treasurer, our debts, our escrow, taxes, and all of our secrets, Kasich and Cruz. Our ninth house of the upper courts, foreign travel, the Supreme Court, our religions, our philosophies, Trump and Rubio. Our 10th house of our public image in the world, and the leader of our country. Again, this does not mean that all three are going to be our leader, but the influence they have as a leader and on our leader and their influence worldwide. They enhance our leadership in the world. Rubio, Kasich, Cruz. Our 11th house of friends and group activities, Congress, congressional hearings, all that kind of stuff. Hillary, Bernie, and Cruz. And all of our candidates have planets in the 12th house of our open enemies, our hidden enemies, everything that's hidden, hospitals, prisons, spies, any type of confinement, any type of behind the scenes negotiation. Every one of them has that. And as I said, that seems to be a prerequisite because you have to deal with people who may be unsavory, who may want to harm our country. And so the negotiations are handled privately and then perhaps presented publicly. So that's it. That's the way it looks for now. Keep checking with me. I'll have more videos for you. If you'd like your own reading, of course, go to my website, MaxineTaylor.com. Till we talk again, may the stars shine brightly on you and yours and the United States of America.